start by having you all, and particularly you, Secretary Nuland, to address both with India, with South Africa, with the ASEAN nations, the difficulty in getting them to take a strong stand against Russia. I think it particularly bothers me with democracy in South Africa as democracies. We have strong partnerships with countries like the Philippines and a new government there, and yet we're not really seeing them as robustly supportive of defending a republic against dictatorial aggression.
Senator, let me start with the Philippines and the new government, where actually they have been quite strong supporters of Ukraine, including voting with us in the United Nations against the annexation of Ukrainian territories, including some other work we're doing together on security support, et cetera. With regard to South Africa and India, as you know, these countries have long-standing historic intertwinings with Russia. We have been making the case regularly with them that these dependencies that they've created make them more vulnerable, and we will continue to do that. In the case of the oil price cap, as you know, which India was quite skeptical of, they're now major beneficiaries because the oil that they're buying from Russia is so much cheaper. And we are now working with them on ways to diversify away from Russian weapons. I'll be in India next week talking about that, among other things. The South African situation is complex and is also tied to some of the politics inside South Africa, but I would look forward to talking with you offline about some of those things.
Great. And I'm glad to hear that you're going to India. I would think that after the performance of Russian weapons on the battlefield has been demonstrated, they might be somewhat less interested. And also that's a big issue with the ASEAN countries, many of which depend on Russian weapons. Are you proceeding on to Jakarta or to the ASEAN lobbying after in India?
This trip is South Asia. It is India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and then on to Qatar to work on some of the Afghan SIV issues. Mm-hmm. We have Deputy Secretary Sherman, Secretary Councillor Chalet have all made these same points in ASEAN. And, you know, on my last trip to India, that was one of the first things we said. Look at how these weapons perform on the battlefield. But mm-hmm. I think they find themselves, after 60 years of entanglement, having to find alternatives. And that's part of the job we have to do, is help them with alternatives.
Yes. I want to turn to the stories that have been raised about corruption concerns. Zelensky has fired several people. There's stories about the military paying a lot more than market price, which always implies corruption in buying food. It's important for us to really work diligently to support Zelensky's government in taking on corruption, because it will be a kind of cancer-eating away at support that they need from everyone in the world. And I just get your insights and commentary on that.
Assistant Secretary McKee may have more to add, but as I said in my opening, what Ukrainian patriots are fighting for and what we in the international community are supporting is a more democratic, cleaner, more European Ukraine. I think Zelensky's very conscious of that, and we have been very clear that we need to see, even as they prosecute this war, the anti-corruption steps, including good corporate governance and judicial measures, move forward. We agree with you that the fact that a number of folks have been dismissed or forced to resign as their cases are being pursued, that sends a very strong signal to others who would try to rip off this war effort, and is important for the future of Ukraine.
Thank you. A last question. My colleague was mentioning concern that the Europeans aren't putting as much into support of Ukraine as we are. But I wonder what that analysis looks like if one considers the much higher prices that they're paying for energy or to host refugees, and if you have any sense of how all that balances out in terms of our thinking about the sacrifices that the European partners are making.
Well, thank you for raising that, Senator Merkley. I did mention the refugee burden, some 10 million refugees hosted all over Europe, which, you know, impacts towns and communities all over the continent, and you see that everywhere. But your point about the fact that, you know, most of my European friends report a 300% increase in their energy bills over the winter, and if you just think about the sticker shock that that would create if it were happening here, you're absolutely right. But that speaks to the fact that they have now woken up to the fact that the dependence that they had on Russian oil was bad for their national interest, and so there will be, as hard as this has been, there will be good structural changes that come out the other end.
If there is any analysis that weighs those different financial factors together to paint a more complete picture, I'd just be interested in seeing it.